Hello, my name is Mitch and I draw Blood Force, and today we're wrapping up our X Factor week. But before we get into it, if you enjoyed the channel, if you feel like you might want to support me a bit as an artist, what you can do is in the description, there's a link to my Patreon. If you subscribe there, that gives you access to the Blood Force pages and comics and these videos before they make it to YouTube. So let's get into this issue here. So again, this is some of the best artwork of 1991. This is Whilce Portacio at maybe the peak of his powers. You can argue about his work later on Wetworks. I think that's probably in contention as well. What he does these days, it feels like he's not up to 100% anymore. That's all right. He doesn't have to be. But at this point, he's churning out work at a nice clip, and it's always interesting to look at. So let's do a quick rundown on how the story broke down. So up to this point, basically X Factor were under attack by Apocalypse and his minions, the Dark Riders. We find out the Dark Riders are in fact the Inhuman nobility who have defected to Apocalypse, I think against their will though. And Apocalypse attacked them with two goals in mind. The first was to take over their ship and bend it back to his will, because it used to be his ship. And the second was to kidnap Nathan Summers. And the second one he accomplished. He kidnapped Nathan Summers, teleported away to his base on the moon. And the first one he mostly accomplished. Corrupted ship to the point where it felt its only option was to launch itself into space and blow up. But X Factor were able to save themselves and enough of ship's programming to keep it alive in a little kind of life raft. At which point they were rescued by the Inhumans. And they were able to aid the Inhumans in freeing the Inhuman population from Apocalypse's imprisonment of them. They then breached Apocalypse's palace and got into the room with Nathan and Apocalypse. And now it's final showdown time. So, and we see from the cover here, this is about a bitter sacrifice, which is true. So is Cyclops going to have to give up his son? Perhaps. But let's do the cover here first. We've got a tormented Cyclops here to start with. And it's all Apocalypse is doing. Pretty good cover. Not really indicative of what happens, maybe, but it's I don't know. It looks great, and I like the contrast with the colors. An interesting choice with just this designy element here. I'm not sure what that's even about. But it does break things up a little bit. So, here we go. We've got a 40-foot tall Apocalypse standing over Nathan Summers, who's all wired up. He's absorbing Nathan's life essence, which I believe is why he's growing that kind of size. I don't know that that's entirely explained, but that's okay. So Apocalypse is just going to do a little bit of monologuing here in preparation for the double page spread on page 2 and 3. So he talks a little bit about the 12, which we get a little bit of a glimpse who that is. They mention it as being members of X Factor. They're not very specific, although they do mention that Scott and undoubtedly Jean are part of it. Xavier, by the looks of it as well. Cable, and what looks like Storm. And I can't tell the rest of these here. And there's our first flip with, again, a gigantic Apocalypse and his Dark Riders. And Claremont's going to give us a bit of background on just, what Apocalypse's deal is, the whole survival of the fittest, all that business. Cyclops helpfully reminds us this is Gauntlet, Tusk, and Barrage. Always good. And we get to see Whilce's attempt at rendering Iceman's ass in ice form. That does have to be a little tough, thinking about it. And again, this is going to have, theoretically, Jim Lee plots. I don't know if I buy it. There's nothing on here that screams Jim Lee to me. We'll take a look through, though. But, no, nice dynamic panel. Bit of a... Is it a Dutch angle? I guess kind of. All this stuff here at least implies Dutch angle. And characters at different depths all over the place. It's a nice and kind of chaotic. And this one's going to be largely just a fight issue, really, although on different battlefields at least. So they're going to mix things up. And this time, X Factor are used to fighting the Dark Riders, and they're able to take them out reasonably easily, at least at first. Jean shuts down Gauntlet again. We get this. We get all this brushstroke stuff in the background when Wilson wants to do something actiony. Again, weird panel shapes. And then we see the ace up Apocalypse's sleeve is Medusa. So again, he's brainwashed her. They mentioned here that in much the same way that he brainwashed Archangel not too long ago. So that's interesting stuff. And of course, you just give Wilson opportunity to draw some 15-foot long hair. He's going to take that and run with it. And of course, Jean getting hurt distracts Scott for a second. So he gets hit by Barrage here. Again, panels are just all over the place. And it kind of just adds a little bit of extra oomph when with this particular slant, it feels like. Like he had to go a little bit of extra distance to hit the ground. Archangel here is saying how he's being spun around by some kind of wind because Crystal controls the elements, and she's, messing with his wings. If we recall from the last issue, she also got kidnapped. And that kind of does it for X Factor. They are all unconscious now. Do we see Iceman and Beast getting knocked out? Not really. I mean, Beast was getting jumped by some of these minions here, but that was about it. They do kind of end up playing second fiddle a lot of the time, don't they? But they wake up in these sort of cryotube things here, which I feel like has happened to X Factor with Apocalypse before, where they just get captured by him. At least on the cover for the first appearance of Archangel. I don't remember which X Factor issue that is. And now that Apocalypse has captured them fairly easily too, he's gonna explain himself. There's not really a whole lot of explanation required now that he's absorbing all of their life essences. That's the point there. He's going to be able to break free from his prison, it says. So it says, I guess he's imprisoned on the moon. Yeah, they mentioned here how he was exiled. So I'm not sure how that happened exactly, but Apocalypse is to X Factor as Magneto is to X-Men, where he's kind of their he's the villain that kind of defines them, which a lot of the best teams have. You think about like the Fantastic Four, they got Doctor Doom. You think about the Avengers, not so much. And I've never been as big a fan of the Avengers myself anyway. And we're going to get a lot of kind of quick inking in here. I don't know if the penciling, like this looks very rough. And kind of creepy, really, to be honest. And we're going to see a bit more rough inking here. Like, how many teeth does Xavier need? But again, look at the panel choices. They're just piling on panels here. And I guess this is kind of the future falling apart here, right? This is the 12. If it's X Factor plus 7-ish members of X-Men. And at that moment, the Inhumans come back to X Factor's rescue. Because if you remember back in the last issue, X Factor helped the Inhumans free their people. And then the Inhumans just kind of took off while X Factor did a big old let's go. And that was the end of it. It's like, well, I didn't really help them out in return. Well, now they're going to do that. So that's nice. And it's a justifiable cavalry, which is good because we don't always get those. And now with X Factor and the Inhumans versus the Dark Riders, they're going to make short work of them and just basically end up all having to fight Apocalypse by himself. And again, a 40-foot Apocalypse, which is a bit of a tougher deal than you would normally have to deal with. And Cyclops starts by cutting off these power conduits that are energizing him. So cool shots here. Nice and kind of detailed. And he's good at doing these blasts too. Where it feels like a high level of debris is flying out because of it. Like just the thickness of the blast implies force. Now we've got a Scani here who's kind of hiding in the background because she knows she just got her one shot of trying to save Nathan Summers at this point. Scani was sent, of course, we didn't mention earlier, Scani was sent from the future to go back and save Nathan. So Beast is about to try and grab Nathan out from the machine that he's in. The Scani jumps in, and it looks like jumps on Nathan. I'm not sure what this tube is supposed to be, if not that. Maybe she jumped like in here. Let's assume she did that and didn't just like fucking frog stomp him. But it would have been some sort of lethal trap. Somehow she shorted it out without killing herself, so good for her. Bit of an awkward panel here, but you do what you can. This issue feels like it's going to start getting a little rushed, to be honest. Particularly on the inks on pages like this. This just kind of looks sloppy. I don't know. They're saying Art T-Bear did this. His stuff looks quite good before this. I don't know if he just had to rush it or if they handed it off to somebody else. I always wonder if Jim Lee inked this instead of T-Bear, but like, I feel like Jim Lee's better than this. He is kind of sloppy, but like, not like ugly sloppy, usually. So now Apocalypse is, instead of using his usual method of using stratagems and technology, and now he's just kind of shooting them with energy because he's just been absorbing so much from everybody. And this is him kind of looking to overpower them, kind of display how hopeless their situation is, that sort of thing. And Beast is trying to... He's finally able to extricate Nathan from the machine here, but Nathan has been infected by the technovirus. So this is when that happens, because as far as I understand it, Nathan becomes Cable. That's the deal. And this is the point where he becomes infected with the technovirus, and he has to be taken to the future for the infection to be halted. And kind of a disturbing image here, with him covered with all this techno stuff. But they do take it, and it does kind of like take out his eye, which is the eye that ends up being scarred, right? So I'm not sure if it was in the plans at this time. We're still a couple of years away from, a couple of years, like a year and a half away from the Executioner song, where it gets sort of definitively stated that, or mostly definitively stated, that Cable is Nathan. So Jean, at this point, she's supposed to have lost her telepathy, although there's been sort of intimations that she might be kind of getting it back here and there. It feels like Synapse kind of shifted something that may have started her in the right direction. And she's trying to find a way to fix something or to reach him, or to reach Nathan, when Nathan actually grabs her mind and pulls it into his psyche, because he's telepathic himself and probably more powerful than her, actually, at least at this point. And it's, of course, a child's mentality. It's all fairy tale kind of imagery, including Jean, who's like in this paladin outfit. Weird looking stuff. Wills doesn't exactly draw the most reassuring cartoon characters, you know? All this stuff looks kind of creepy and vaguely bug-like. I mean, this is a bug, but you still, like, this just, again, creepy. And Apocalypse, he's present in Nathan's mind as well, and he's able to battle Jean psychically while enveloping Nathan, at least metaphorically here. And this is all decent stuff. It's a little difficult to follow what's going on when you have a fully silver character like this. I don't know, maybe they should get out Ron Lim for this. He's a bit more used to it. But it's good practice for Wetworks. And while she's fighting and losing against Apocalypse and kind of putting on a good show, and they point out here that she's kind of stroking his ego by playing like the hapless, helpless female, she is able to pull Scott in, who has a bit of experience being on the astral plane, and he's able to attack Apocalypse himself. And we got all these, like, so everything's kind of contained in these thought bubbles instead of panels, because that's makes some sense on the astral plane. And then he gets kicked out of Nathan's head, and the three of them are kind of joined telepathically at this point, which is interesting. So now it's like all three of their powers are sort of all mixed together. And this is because you need to come up with a good, like, how do we finish off Apocalypse in a way that isn't just like, oh, so we tricked him, or we hit him at the right time, or, this is just the time when Cyclops hitting him with his blast actually hurts for some reason, that kind of thing. But by having them all be sort of linked telepathically and have their powers all flowing through Scott here, and his eye beams are enhanced through that. And we get this pretty dope elimination shot here, where he's just this massive fucking cannon shooting at Apocalypse here. And pretty great sense of power. Nice use of contrast with the shadows. You can see him, breaking up like this kind of pseudo Kirby crackle with a little bit of white spatter and a little bit of just like tracing with white paint. And it breaks it up interesting because it's a slightly different pattern than you're used to for the Kirby crackle. And then somebody went and dropped in a shadow behind him. I wonder if that was Wils's idea or the colorists or what. It feels unnecessary. It feels like it makes him look like he's dancing. So now we're in the aftermath of the battle. And this is where things really, everything's been okay up until this point in terms of pace. This is where everything feels like it gets really accelerated to the point where it starts to become a little bit unfortunate, actually. So because of the technovirus, Nathan is dying now. Ship confirms it, and there's nothing he can do because there's no technology that can really counter this particular kind of viral attack. And nobody's, and the Inker is just beside himself and refuses to do like a credible job here. This is just weird looking shit. I don't know what's going on. It looks like look how basic all these lines are. This feels like it was in a rush to get out. And at this point, Askani, pops up again, says, I've got to take him to the future. We can fix him. Which is confusing to me because they said it was a one-way trip, I believe. Maybe I read that wrong, or maybe they're just like, psh, nah, man, I never said that. What are you talking about? Don't go back and look at that issue. And her argument for taking him to the future is not very fleshed out, other than, I can fix him. And that's it. And he's like, can you elaborate on that? And she's like, no. Do you believe me? And he's like, yeah. The kid's dying. I don't have a choice, really, I guess. So he hands off Nathan to Askani, and she teleports to the future, and that's it. It does kind of look like she disintegrates here. And there's no way for him to get Nathan back. There's no way for him to know if it's successful. Really, all he knows is if Nathan stays here, he will die. Which feels like he wouldn't give into, because they've saved people at the last second so often, but maybe this is the kind of thing where you just kind of recognize, okay, this is that thing, that last second saving thing that I have to latch on to. They don't really mention that, but that would maybe ease it a little bit. So she takes Nathan back, and that's it. He doesn't really come back to it, does he? He does. Nathan Summers, or Nate Summers, or Cable, or whatever. He comes back in many different forms, but that's it for him, basically, as Cyclops' son, as far as I can tell. And then the Inhumans immediately party. And Scott's a little like, man, I'm a little down about this. He does not seem to be very broken up about it. It feels like he's comforting Charlotte here, who's weirded out by the fact that she won a fight on the moon with a bunch of mutants and aliens or altered humans or something. And Cyclops, yeah, he's like, yeah, no, it hurts, and I'm sad, and we're gonna fight for another day. I was like, wow, really? Because they bring up over the course of the issue a couple of times that he wasn't really there to see Nathan very much. You know, as being a member of the X-Men, there was a long stretch of time, I think. Well, I mean, not long, but there was a stretch of time where Madeline Pryor is the Goblin Queen, and I believe she has Nathan, and or where they're split up, or I don't know. He doesn't look after him very much, so he is a bit of an absent father. So you think there'd be more regret there, and there kind of doesn't seem to be. And I mean, the next time we're going to see, like, he shows up in issue 69 after this. And then after that, he's in X-Men #1, like the Jim Lee X-Men #1. And he's, you know, leader of the new team again. And it's kind of forgotten altogether that he just kind of lost his son to a technovirus when he got teleported to the future. So that could have been handled a little better, I feel like. And then we get the Watcher giving us our wrap-up epilogue monologue, where, you know, Cyclops had to set aside his dreams for the greater good, and he's gonna be sad, but he'll get over it because, like, he's good at getting over being sad. I don't know. And yeah, just kind of driving home that we're maybe rushing to finish up the issue here because this is not all Wilsard. I'm not even sure if this is. This almost looks like Tom Morgan or something. But we get a Liefeld Cable in here. We get a couple of Andy Kubert heads. Like, Whilce couldn't do a head? So I got to assume that Whilce just didn't do this page. Because, yeah, I mean, you know, like a head is like one of the easiest things to draw, at least for a guy who's been doing it for a while. Not there was composition, at least. Interesting outline here, but yeah, I think this part all got pretty rushed to get it out on time. I mean, it wraps it up, just not in a particularly satisfying way. And Marvel is about to go bi-weekly. Like right before. Well, this is maybe a year before Image, but like, I wonder if there was any element where it was like, I never have to be on a bi-weekly schedule again. Like, way to drive away your talent. Jesus Christ. Okay, so that is it for the X Factor 4-part series here. Decent series overall. Had some ups and downs. This one, unfortunately, yeah, it feels like it got rushed and didn't showcase the best of the series. Really, that was probably issue 67. There was a lot of good stuff in issue 67, both on the writing side and the art side. So what's the big shot in this one? Well, I think we know what the big shot in this one is. It's the big shot. There we go. So that's a decent enough place to end on. So yeah, pretty. For the most part, it's been a great looking series. It just kind of got let down at the end here. And you know, Chris Claremont, he kind of keeps it going to the point where you stay involved. So that's nice. And after this, we're going to get our little Muir Island saga, which has the last of Whilce on X Factor. And one of the better looking issues, too, I think, actually, thinking about it. You know, strong cover. Yeah, this stuff is all honed. Good double page spread. This is when it was the inkers are Task Force X, whatever that means. So probably Scott Williams, probably some Jim Lee, maybe a little bit of Art Thibert. Yeah, I don't know if we'll ever do the Muir Island saga. I don't know. We have to look at a lot of Andy Kubert for that. I don't know if I'm ready for that. Maybe not. But that's going to do it for this one, at least. Thanks very much for watching. If you like this video, please hit like, hit subscribe, hit the notifications. Open up the description and hit the links there to subscribe on my Patreon. And that'll give you access to the Blood Force pages and comics, as well as these videos before they get to YouTube, usually a week or so in advance. After that, you can go over to Instagram and commission some artwork. I'll take a stab at this one. Why not? It won't look quite... it might not look as good as this. Maybe I'll try something a little different. But yeah, no, I'll do this one. Sure. This is how all of these have to end, you know, with me going, I will draw this. Will it be good? I don't know. Let's find out, you know. But yeah, that's going to do it for this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.